Your car's computer is lying to you right now. Every time you start your engine, a tiny sensor is feeding data to your brain module, and if that data is even slightly off, your idle becomes a nightmare. Rough shaking at stoplights. Random stalls. That embarrassing sputter when you're trying to impress someone. Mechanics will charge you hundreds to replace parts you don't need, because there's a $0 trick they hope you never discover. It's called a MAF sensor reset, and it's so simple it feels illegal. But here's the catch: do it wrong, and you'll make things worse. Stay till the end because I'm going to show you exactly when this trick works, when it fails, and the one hidden symptom that tells you your MAF isn't just dirty, it's dying. Plus, the twist nobody talks about that could save your engine from permanent damage. MAF stands for Mass Airflow Sensor. It's a small component sitting between your air filter and throttle body, measuring exactly how much air enters your engine. Your engine control unit uses that number to calculate fuel injection. Too much air reading, you run lean. Too little, you run rich. Either way, your idle suffers. The sensor uses a hot wire or hot film element that air flows over. As air cools the element, resistance changes, and voltage signals get sent to the computer. Over time, oil residue from dirty air filters, dust particles, and combustion blow-by coat the delicate element. The coating throws off the signal. Your computer still thinks it's getting accurate data, so it keeps adjusting fuel based on false information. That's why your idle hunts, surges, or drops dangerously low, and why your check engine light might stay dark even though something is clearly wrong. Here's where it gets interesting. Cleaning the MAF with expensive sprays is the industry standard, but the reset trick costs nothing and works faster in many cases. Disconnect your battery for 10 minutes. That's it. When you reconnect, the engine computer clears its adaptive fuel trims and relearns idle parameters from scratch. If your MAF was borderline dirty but still functional, the computer stops compensating for bad data and starts fresh. The rough idle often disappears within one drive cycle. I've seen trucks with surging idle at 900 RPM settle perfectly at 700 after a simple battery pull.
No chemicals.
No tools except a socket wrench. But here's the truth mechanics don't advertise. This trick exposes whether your real problem is the sensor or the computer's confused memory. If the idle fixes itself, your MAF was salvageable. If it comes back worse, you've got deeper issues. Why don't shops tell you about this free fix? Because diagnostic labor pays. A shop charges $80 to $120 just to scan codes and inspect the MAF. If they clean it with MAF cleaner spray, add another $50. If they replace it, you're looking at $200 to $400 parts and labor. The battery reset takes 5 minutes and zero profit. There's no incentive to teach you a trick that makes their service obsolete. Some techs will even argue the reset is dangerous because it clears codes, but that's only true if you have an active check engine light you're ignoring. For drivability symptoms without codes, the reset is pure gold. The industry wants you dependent. They want you to believe only a professional scanner or new parts can solve idle problems. Meanwhile, your car's computer just needed a fresh start. Now let's talk about when this trick works and when it's a waste of time. It works best when your idle issue is recent, under 3 months old, and your air filter isn't completely clogged. It works if you recently did an oil change or intake cleaning and disturbed the MAF wiring. It works if you drove through dusty conditions or replaced your air filter with a cheap oiled aftermarket unit that contaminated the sensor. It does not work if your MAF sensor is physically cracked, corroded, or the hot wire element is broken. It does not work if your idle air control valve is stuck or your throttle body is carbon-caked. And it absolutely does not work if your problem is a vacuum leak, failing fuel pump, or bad ignition coil. The reset only fixes computer confusion, not hardware failure. Know the difference or you'll waste time chasing ghosts. Let's bust the biggest myth right now. Unplugging the MAF while the engine is running does not prove it's bad. I see this advice everywhere, and it's half-truth garbage. Yes, if you unplug the MAF and the engine runs better, it suggests a faulty sensor. But on modern cars, unplugging the MAF triggers limp mode, and the computer uses default values, which can mask other problems. You might think the MAF is bad when really your fuel pressure is low or your throttle position sensor is drifting. Plus, on some vehicles, unplugging sensors with the engine running can spike voltage and damage the computer. The safer test is to reset the computer, drive for 20 miles, and see if the idle stabilizes. If it doesn't, Then scan for pending codes and inspect the MAF element with a flashlight. A good MAF element looks clean and silvery. A bad one has brown or black buildup you can't blow off. Here's the hidden mechanism nobody explains. When your MAF sensor reads incorrectly, your oxygen sensors downstream notice the air-fuel mixture is off. They send correction signals back to the computer. The computer adjusts fuel trims, sometimes by 15 or 20%, trying to fix what it thinks is a fueling issue. But the root cause is bad airflow data. So now you're running on corrupted trims and corrupted airflow readings. The idle control valve fights to stabilize RPM, but it's working with garbage math. Your engine shakes because ignition timing is slightly advanced or retarded based on false load calculations. Resetting the battery wipes those bad trims. The computer starts over with factory baseline values. If the MAF is clean enough to send decent data, the relearn happens fast and smooth. If the MAF is still dirty, the trims will skew again within 50 miles, and your idle will return. That's your real diagnostic. Temporary fix means dirty MAF. No fix means failed MAF or other fault. Watch for these symptoms that scream MAF contamination. Cold start idle is smooth, but after 5 minutes it drops and shakes. That's the computer transitioning from open loop to closed loop fuel control and trusting the MAF data. Or idle is perfect in park but stumbles in drive at a stoplight when AC is on. That's added load exposing weak idle trims. You might also notice hesitation off the line or flat acceleration between 1500 and 3000 RPM. That's the MAF underreporting airflow during throttle tip-in. If you reset the battery and these symptoms vanish for a few days then creep back, your MAF element is coated but not dead. Clean it with dedicated MAF sensor cleaner, never brake cleaner or carb cleaner, which leave residue. Spray from 6 inches away, let it air dry, reinstall, reset the battery again, and retest. If symptoms return within a week, replace the sensor. Don't keep resetting forever hoping for magic. If you're running a turbocharged engine, high-mileage vehicle, or modified intake, the MAF reset trick has extra stakes. Turbo engines see higher airflow velocity, which can peel contaminants off the filter and slam them into the MAF element. A dirty MAF on a turbo car can cause dangerous lean conditions under boost, leading to knock and piston damage. High-mileage engines often have crankcase ventilation systems that push oil vapor into the intake, coating the MAF over time. If you've got over 150,000 miles and you've never cleaned your MAF, a reset might help idle but won't stop the root oil vapor problem. And if you installed a cone-style oiled performance filter, that oil can migrate onto the sensor within 5,000 miles. The reset will clear trims, but the oil coating remains. You'll need to clean the element and possibly switch to a dry filter to prevent repeat contamination. In these cases, the reset is step 1, not the whole solution. Here's the twist mechanics won't admit: sometimes the MAF isn't the villain, the throttle body is. Modern throttle bodies have electronic motors that control the throttle plate. Carbon buildup on that plate restricts airflow at idle, and the computer tries to compensate by opening the plate more. But if the MAF data is slightly off, the computer can't sync throttle position with airflow. The reset trick works temporarily because the computer relearns throttle position and idle air targets together. So you might think you fixed the MAF when really you just cleared throttle adaptation. The smarter move is to reset the battery and clean the throttle body at the same time. Remove the intake tube, spray throttle body cleaner on the plate, wipe it with a rag, let it dry, reinstall, then do the battery reset. This forces the computer to relearn both airflow and throttle position from a clean slate. I've seen this combo fix idle issues that stumped shops for weeks. Here's your decision checklist. First, confirm your air filter isn't clogged. If it is, replace it before anything else. Second, inspect the MAF sensor element with a flashlight. If it's visibly dirty, clean it with MAF cleaner spray. Third, check for vacuum leaks by spraying soapy water around intake hoses while the engine idles. Bubbles mean leaks. Fourth, if everything looks okay but idle is still rough, disconnect the negative battery terminal for 10 minutes, then reconnect and start the engine. Let it idle for 5 minutes without touching the throttle. Drive normally for 20 miles. If idle improves and stays improved, you're done. If idle improves then degrades again within a week, replace the MAF sensor. If idle doesn't improve at all, scan for codes and inspect the throttle body, idle air valve, and PCV system. Don't keep resetting hoping for a miracle. The reset is a diagnostic tool as much as a fix. It tells you whether your problem is adaptive memory or hardware failure. Bottom line, the MAF reset trick is a legitimate $0 fix for idle problems caused by computer confusion, not a gimmick. It works because modern engine computers learn and adapt, and sometimes they learn the wrong lessons from a dirty sensor. Resetting wipes that bad learning. But it's not a cure-all. If your MAF element is coated or damaged, if your throttle body is carboned up, if you have vacuum leaks or failing ignition components, a reset won't help. The trick is knowing when to reset and when to dig deeper. Use the reset as your first diagnostic step for rough idle with no codes. If it works, you just saved hundreds of dollars. If it doesn't, you've eliminated one variable and you can move forward with confidence. Either way, you're ahead of the guy who drove straight to the dealer and paid for parts he didn't need. That's the power of understanding your car instead of fearing it. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had a rough idle that magically fixed itself after disconnecting the battery, or did you end up replacing the MAF sensor anyway? Drop your story in the comments because I want to know what worked and what didn't. If this trick saves you money, hit that like button and share this video with anyone fighting idle issues. And if you want to see the next level, I'm dropping a video next week on the throttle body relearn trick that dealers charge $200 for, and it's just as free. Miss that and you'll keep throwing money at problems you can solve in your driveway. I'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp, stay cheap, and keep your engine running clean.